Слава Аллаху.
Вот, я казак. А вы кто?
Мы корейцы.
Корейцы? О, Құдай май. Бұлардың бәрін қайда орналастыра белді?
У нас маленький ребенок.
Салима.
Салима, принеси кипяток.
Algorithms often give us a polished image of modern Kazakhstan, but the reality found in the archives is far more complex. How did we become a multi-ethnic space? Was it a strategic design of a historical incident?
Our first research question: how did colonial and Soviet mobilization projects shift the demographic balance of the steppe?
Second question: to what extent was this transformation a result of forces, resettlement, and the tragedy of the Gulag system?
Question number 3. How did Soviet institutions turn a collision of cultures into a permanent zone of interethnic contact?
To answer this, we analyzed primary records, engaged with academic discourse, and collected evidence from the National Museum and Presidential Center.
Our first statement is that the migration in the 20th century was a deliberate tool of state-driven demographic reconstruction. In the National Museum, we found the 1937 population census. Even then, the data showed a rapidly diversifying landscape, with dozens of nationalities recorded. This was the result of early colonial settlement and the first Soviet industrial projects, which began rewriting the demographic DNA of the region.
The Soviet centralized economy turned human displacement into a mandatory element of modernization. We analyzed that grand infrastructure projects such as the Truksip Railway and the Karaganda coal basin demanded an immediate influx of hundreds of thousands of workers from across the Union. Therefore, the 1837 census data we found is not a random anomaly, but a direct consequence of Stalinist forced industrialization, where human labor was utilized as the primary tool of state reconstruction.
Our second statement is that the Gulag system and forced separation transformed Kazakhstan into a forced multi-ethnic space, defined by Sherry Truma. The document we examined revealed a systematic waves of forced resettlement. We identified the arrivals of Karyans and Ukrainians in 1938, Tatars in 1940, and the massive deportation of Volga Germans in 1941 and 1942. A crucial part of this tragedy was Alger, the Akmala camp for waves of territories to the motherland. Women of over 16 nationalities were imprisoned here. This created a forced multi-ethnic environment where survival becomes the only shared language.
This leads to our third statement. Soviet institutions and the local solidarity turned the collision of displaced cultures into a stable zone of interethnic contact. We found primary accounts, such as those by Gerald Belge, describing how local Kazakhs risked their lives to help deportees. This human connection turned a state-imposed trauma into the foundation of our modern multiculturalism.
Scholars like Sophie Perros argue that while these projects were colonial, they created a shared identity through Soviet institutions like schools and factories. We compare this with Zhbatul Abulkozin's work, which states that these institutions stabilized the demographic chaos into a functional society. Kazakhstan's multi-ethnic space is the result of state-driven projects.
The profound trauma of the Gulag and Alger and the incredible resilience and solidarity of the people. This layered history defines our identity today.